think it will be, just because of the way it is, but hey. We actually have a topic today, so it's not just going to be a bunch of rambling and random words as it was yesterday. I want to talk today about extremes, like people being in extremes, which has been a topic that I've kind of been looking into a lot recently. One problem that I see with a lot of people today, like a majority of people, not all, but a majority, is that everyone thinks of things in massive extremes. There's always a right and wrong side of an issue, especially in the gym community. Like, one thing can be seen as the worst thing ever and never touched again, when sometimes there's a middle ground. And like, for example, people that try these really difficult and hard diets, just completely cutting out pieces, like keto, for example. Too many carbs is obviously bad, and too little carbs is obviously bad. That is how I kind of view every issue right now in my life, is too much and too little of everything is bad. But the problem with some people's way of thinking is that there are only those two options, too much and too little. And you see that over and over and over again in the gym community, specifically. Like, overtraining and undertraining. Some people are going like 2 sets a week, and some people are going 24 sets a week. So much emphasis on one side rather than just trying to sit in a middle ground and see both sides as like there's positives and negatives to both. I started thinking about this in my everyday life whenever I started watching Renaissance periodization videos, which, very great channel. He's a hilarious guy, and he is a genius when it comes to this kind of stuff. But he mentioned it with like gym exposure, and how nothing in the gym is ever going to work in extremes. And I started thinking about that, about everything, and issues in my own life, and it's really helped me grow as a person, not having to hate or love a single thing, and kind of sitting in a middle ground and trying to take good aspects from both sides. Everything is okay in moderation. And I talked about this to my coworker recently, one of my managers actually. We had a nice sit-down conversation, which was great, and me and her talked, and I brought this point up actually, and she completely agrees, is that I think a big problem with the way that people are interacting and how toxic it is only seeing things in extremes. And if those extremes don't match, hatred for the other person starts to develop. Getting to that point of so far on one side and so far on another, and then trying to convince each other, is just not going to work. And I've been using the gym as a relation to this, because it's a pretty good one. Everything in the gym, absolutely nothing works in extremes when it comes to the gym. But you can apply this to basically every problem. Like, overgeneralizations are kind of in this topic, as I've kind of learned through a couple of my friends, and then trying to talk to them about why this seems that way. So I went down to Texas with one of my friends, two of my friends, but we went to Texas. It was my first time ever going to Texas. It was a great time. I had an amazing time down there. But while we were going up there, my friend, he said that everyone in Texas, like, the hospitality is just crazy down there. And I thought about it for a second. I was like, so you're saying that every single person is just generally more nice than where I'm from? And that had me thinking about some of the other things that he said, making very large generalizations about topics. And it fits into this thematically as kind of just believing something on one extreme. But then there's people, like, for example, especially in New York, that think that nobody's like kind, or but you're going into that interaction with other people believing that wholeheartedly, you're going to find ways to make either people seem nicer than they are or people seem more dickhead than they are. And that's kind of where the problem arises. And you're sitting on those two sides and thinking so hard about it that it starts to become a reality in your own head. You're gonna say baseline person, not nice and not mean in any way. Like just basically an NPC. Just imagine a completely neutral NPC. If you are my friend that was in Texas, you'd find some ways to think that the things that they were saying were really nice. And if you were a person in New York, for example, you'd find ways for them, the things that they are saying, to be mean or to be demeaning. And that's kind of what I'm getting at on these extremes, is that you think about it so much and you're on one side so much, you start to believe it. And you start to see things that aren't actually there to justify those beliefs that are so strong. And that's what I think is toxic. And that's what I've been thinking about a lot recently. Growing up in a small town in rural Missouri, there's just beliefs that you grow up with that are completely irrelevant because that's just what you've been told your entire life, you know? And it's difficult to think that way. You're not getting views from outside points. And even if you are, you're only hearing things that you want to hear. And that's what has helped me grow so much recently. So much is starting to hear out every side. And then I think that I've had an opinion on people that has been positive. I think that every person is going to be positive. You start to see good in people that don't deserve it. And you start letting people that aren't good be good in your own head because that's what you believe. And you're letting people take advantage of you if you're thinking that way. I'm not saying think of everyone as horrible, horrible human beings, but don't expect every single person to only say nice things to you and about you, which is hard. It's hard to know that. And my first job, I can always go back to work because it's what I've done since I was young, is my first job. I hate drama. I hate talking shit about people. But for that, people would come to me to talk shit about other coworkers. And what I didn't realize until I got to college and to my other job is that everyone is talking shit about everyone. I was too ignorant at the time to know that people were also talking shit about me. Because they're talking shit about everyone. I'm not special enough to be a person that they're not talking shit on. And that hurt my feelings whenever I realized that people were doing that. And you kind of just have to work through that sometimes. What I'm saying is that working in those extremes is hard to live by, especially as someone that's been there. And it'll help you grow to realize that maybe you are in one of those extremes. And it's fine to be there. You can make conversations with people that don't fit in your extreme. It'll be okay. These people are still just people, you know? And I think that'll bring people together. Hearing out not even opposite sides of an extreme, but the middle ground, you know? Like someone that doesn't really have an opinion on it. Because sometimes it doesn't need, you need to be able to justify your extremes if you're there. That's a weird one. That topic it's a weird one for me, especially with only recently getting into it. But I have chest and triceps today. I hope any of that was coherent. If it wasn't, I'm gonna cut out a lot of it. I think it made a little bit of sense. Sitting on one extreme so hard will make you believe it in any circumstance. Maybe someone comes with an intention of doing other things, but you may believe that they're doing others just because you're hearing words that you want to hear and focusing in on certain parts of a conversation. Just see the whole picture as it is and not just the tiny parts that you like. We'll see if that made any sense. I'll get better at this as it goes, and I didn't pick a big topic because I wanted to get used to how maybe this would be. So yeah, I'm turning into the gym now, and I will see you on the bench press. So yeah, there it is. I kind of gotta hurry, I gotta go to work, but that's kind of how I want these videos to go. Maybe a little bit more structured when I'm talking, but yeah, hope you enjoyed. Peace.